Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polar Craft Boats, the Forward Corporation, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, Brenton USA Hunting Rifles, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to another edition of the Outdoor Magazine radio show right here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network. More than 30 stations across the great state of Michigan. 3 hours each week dedicated to hunting and fishing and shooting and trapping and wildlife issues and conservation issues and some wild game cooking. We talk about how much fun it is to be involved in this outdoor lifestyle and what a tradition it is for many of us here in the great state of Michigan. And a lot of people in the state, and many of us, our family tradition goes back to the outdoors. Glad to have you along with us. But before we get started, I got a bone to pick with the Michigan DNR. And I want to start right out with this right now. I am generally a supporter of the DNR. I don't agree with everything that they do, but I think overall they do a good job. And I think most of the people in the DNR are good, hardworking people who want to do the best for the resource, do the best for the people of Michigan who enjoy those resources. But in this particular case, the Michigan DNR let me down, and I am not happy with it. They did not draw my name for the Pure Michigan Hunt. I know it was a mistake because I knew ahead of time that I won. But when I watched their Facebook Live event, they did not draw Mike A. And I'm not happy about it. So Michigan DNR, just know that I'm very disappointed in your lack of drawing Mike A for the Pure Michigan Hunt. But I do wish the winners a lot of luck. And it's actually kind of funny. I put a post on my Facebook page. I said, Michigan DNR, you made a mistake. You didn't draw my name. And they responded. The Michigan DNR Facebook page responded to my post, and they showed a guy going, looking through paperwork like, so we had fun with it. Hey, speaking of DNR, the springtime turkey application period ends, the 1st? Now, if you were like me and you apply for ZZ, it doesn't really matter, the extended Southern Michigan private land hunt. But if you're applying for one of the limited hunts, you're going to want to get in on that now. Don't let that system pass, or don't let that deadline pass you by. I am looking forward to spring turkey season. I am looking forward to spring bear hunting. Can't wait. Did get a chance though this last weekend to get my grandson Carter out on the trap range with that new over-under 20 gauge that we bought at Jay's Sporting Goods. He was so patient. I mean, he had that thing for a couple of weeks before he had a chance to shoot it. He's like, Grandpa, when can we go? When can we go? Well, last weekend we had a chance. We went out to the local gun club, and him and a buddy of his put 50 rounds through there. They both had brand new guns. It was so cool. They both had brand new guns that they bought for this upcoming springtime high school trap shooting season. They actually both got them at Jay's. So I had two kids, I call them kids, right? They're 16. Had them out there on the range. They got their brand new shotguns. I'm at the controls. I'm the guy throwing the birds. And both of them hit the first bird with the first shell out of their new guns. I thought, hey, we're putting some good mojo into those guns right there. Huh? How cool is that? That was a lot of fun, but it did raise a question in my mind because Carter was talking to me about, getting down to the range and stuff. He says, Grandpa, I can't, I'm 16. I can't drive with a shotgun in my car. And I got thinking about that. And I thought I knew the answer to the question, but I said, I'm going to do a little research, so I'm going to go to the DNR and see if they will talk about that specific subject on the air with me, and they declined. They said, well, we think it should be an MSP, a Michigan State Police conversation. Michigan State Police declined as well. I think it's a shame that we live in a world where people and agencies and organizations are so afraid to even talk about the concept of kids and guns in a legal, in an ethical manner, in an educational forum. They didn't want the conversation to get off center and to go askew. They didn't want me to put them in a position where I was asking them a question they were uncomfortable to answer. I wasn't going to do that. I don't do that. So I did a little research, and I have the answer to that question about can a 16 or 17-year-old kid legally transport a shotgun or a long gun, unloaded, encased, and locked in their truck. Can they ever legally do it? If so, how? You know how I got the answer? I had to go online and look it up. I went through like 80 pages online. I think it was the 80th page of the Michigan gun laws. I finally found the answer. I'll tell you what that answer is at the end of the second hour in this week's Ask Avery segment. Oh, I had a wonderful lunch this last week with a guy named Jerry Widener. Jerry Widener, brother of John Widener and friend of Jim Barta, are the guys who started the hunter safety system like 18 years ago now. They were the guys who came up with this concept of why are we trying to put on this almost impossible tree stand harness that's always tangled and nobody can figure out how to put them on. They said, we'll sew it into a vest. Then all you have to do is slip the vest over your shoulders. And they changed the way hunters today, especially young hunters, looked at the concept of tree stand safety. Wonderful visit with Jerry. My new truck is done. My Garber Chevy Silverado ZR2. This was a really, really nice truck coming off the lot. But I wanted to do a few things to it. I went to see my friends at Sign Image in Saginaw. They put the graphics on it. It's beautiful. But I'm looking at that truck going, something's still not right. And I knew what it was. That truck came with real aggressive 33-inch tires, but they weren't quite big enough for that truck. And you've seen them, right? You've seen trucks these days. They've got these lifted bodies and these little skinny tires, and they don't look good. The other thing I don't like about today's trucks is they all drive down the road with the front end lower than the rear end. And again, it doesn't look too good, and you can't put bigger tires on it. So what I did after I got the graphics on, I went over to see Larry Verbowski at Suspension Maxx in Bay City. Now, that ZR2 comes with a 2-inch factory lift, so it's 2 inches higher than a standard Silverado. I needed them to raise the front end even more to get the bigger tires, so they put a 1-inch lift in the front. So it's got 3 inches in the front. They put new upper control arms on it as well, which then allowed me to go see Mike Hampton at Mike's Tire Sales, and he was able to sneak a set of 35-inch tires underneath that truck. Now she's looking good. The graphics are good. The ride is level. The front end is up. And I got big, beefy 35-inch tires under that thing. And now it looks like a truck. It looks very, very cool. I have pictures of it on my social media outlets. What else is coming up? The Trinity Monitor Wild Game Dinner, which is a big event, our 6th annual, will be Saturday, March 4th at the Great Hall in Midland. Tickets go on sale for that event Monday the 30th. Monday the 30th. Wild Game Chef Extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar is cooking for the event. I am the host and auctioneer of that event. We have a lot of great prizes. Bill Pyles of Ohio Bowhunting Outfitters is giving away an Ohio bow hunt. We're auctioning off an African safari. We're auctioning off Saginaw Bay walleye fishing trips. We're auctioning off a dart and crossbow. We're auctioning off Lake Michigan salmon fishing trip with Paul Schlafly, a Detroit River walleye trip with Captain Mark Pananzek, Saginaw Bay trip with Captain Jeff Godey, guns. What else? It's a big event. It's a fun event. Again, that is Saturday, March 4th. Put it on your calendar now. Tickets go on sale Monday, the 30th. Details on my Facebook page, Mike Avery Outdoors Facebook page. My website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address is Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. If you want to reach out to me with a question, a comment, a criticism, doesn't matter. That is the single best way to get in touch with me, unless you know my cell number. If you have my cell number, just give me a call. If you don't have my cell number, email me Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. And I've had a lot of people lately reach out to me with questions for the Ask Avery segment, or if you want to share posts on the page. It used to be you could go to Facebook, you could make a post on my page directly. I could click one button and share it, and it was seamless, and it was easy, and it was clean. Not anymore. So if you want a good quality picture on my Facebook page, unfortunately for you and me, the best way to get them to me, send them to me in an email, Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com, Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Coming up on this week's show after the break, Bill Pyles of Ohio Bowhunting Outfitters, then Larry Verbowski of Suspension Maxx, and Jason Garvon of the Michigan Wildlife Council. In hour number 2, Jake Romanack of Fishing 411, but we're not talking fishing. We're talking about wolf hunting in Canada. Then Nick Green of MUCC, the Ask Avery segment with the answer to kids and guns. Well, not the overall answer, but in one specific case. And then Lansing Valentine. That's a joke. Lance Valentine of Teaching Fishing, and we wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. That's this week right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Alpena on WZTK. That's 105.7 FM. You can hear us in Traverse City on WTCM 580 AM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Iron Mountain on WMIQ 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Michigan-based Killer Food Plots. Killer Food Plots, well, they never really went out of business, but when they lost their owner, Nick Percy, the future was in question. Well, now Nick Krazan, a friend of Nick's, has taken over the company. Rich Krazan has taken over the company, and he is ready to rock for the upcoming springtime food plot season. Check him out online at killerfoodplots.com. That's killerfoodplots.com. We will be checking in with Rich periodically throughout the food plot season to help you get your plots up and running and ready to go. That's killerfoodplots.com, killerfoodplots.com. While you are online, head on over to my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com, and then jump over to OhioBowhuntingOutfitters.com. OhioBowhuntingOutfitters.com is the website of Ohio Bowhunting Outfitters, owned by a good friend of mine, Bill Pyles. I started hunting with Bill, 20 years ago, back when I had the TV show. The last 3 years, we have done Mike Avery Outdoors / Outdoor Magazine outings with Bill. Now, listen, I love the state of Michigan. But if you're looking to do an outstate hunt, just to see what it's like, I highly recommend Bill, to the point where we've taken, 10 or 12 hunters down there the last few years. And we're going to do it again. But Bill has graciously donated a hunt this year for our Trinity Monitor Wild Game Dinner. And I thought, the least I can do is get Bill on the air to talk about that and his operation, and let you know if you want to hunt this fall with Bill, either during our outing or just as an individual. Now is the time to get signed up, and he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Bill, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Hello, Mike. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good. What did we catch you doing this morning? I mean, you don't have hunters. What are you doing? Just keeping your feet up, drinking coffee?
Oh, yeah. I was eating breakfast. Come on now.
you had me nervous there for a minute. I thought, oh, man, he forgot about our conversation.
Oh, no, I didn't forget.
So, Bill, tell me about your operation. You are one of the longest running outfitters in Ohio now, aren't you?
Yes, pretty amazing. It'll be 26 years this year.
26.
Family owned and operated. We've been very, very fortunate, very blessed.
Well, and you're in a great part of the state. What counties are you in now, Bill?
We operate out of Licking and Knox counties. Licking is number 1 in the state for Pope and Young, Boone and Crockett, and Knox, I believe, was number 6 last year. And Licking County is number 6 or number 7 in the nation. So it's a great time to be here.
Oh, man. And your hunts are, let's make this very clear, they are free-range hunts. You're not behind a fence. Not that I have a problem with somebody hunting behind a fence, but your operation is not high fence at all.
No, they're 100% fair chase. These are wild whitetails. They do what they want to do when they want to do it. So, yeah, it's a 100% fair chase.
Which means because they are wild deer, you're not going to tell somebody, look, you come down and hunt with me and I will guarantee you a big buck. You can't do that.
No, sir. I wish everybody that came here could kill big deer, but it's not going to happen. But we've got a pretty good average going, a pretty good shot average, pretty good opportunity. We're above 40%. So, and that's average overall. Some weeks are better than others. And everybody asks me which the best week to come here. Listen, when deer season opens, I say get in the timber. That's the best time to be in.
Well, and people say, well, I want to be down there for the rut. Rut hunts are great, but sometimes those bucks are locked down on does, and they're not as effective as people would think that they would be.
No, and they go nuts. I mean, they get crazy. Anybody's done this for a while has seen it. They're off their patterns. They're just out in the middle of fields. They're just doing crazy stuff they would never, ever do before. So I like the rut.
Yeah.
Good time to see a lot of deer.
Our hunt with you this year is October 16th through the 20th. Now, that is the same time that we're having the Outdoor Magazine hunt with you, but that's the same week that you have donated a hunt for our Trinity Monitor Wild Game Dinner, Bill, and I wanted to publicly thank you for that. That's a big deal. We appreciate that.
Well, thank you very much. I mean, we do little stuff, especially for our community and stuff around here. We sponsor a team for kids for four-wheeler riding for races. We sponsored softball, basketball, a bitty football league. We've done a lot of stuff. So that's how we get out of the state a little bit and try. And your stuff seems to be a great organization too. So we're all in.
I appreciate that, Bill. So tell me, what is somebody, if somebody comes down and hunts with you for that week, what can they expect? What is the hunt like? What do you provide?
The hunt is a fully guided hunt. Of course, fully guided means we take care of pretty much everything. We don't sit with you in the timber, of course, but our hunters, all they do is hunt. You've got one job and one job only, and I tell the people that hunt, you got one job, and that's to make a shot. That is it. We will take care of everything else. All stands are set. Food plots are in. We usually do 15 to 25 food plots. We are a bait state, so we are allowed to bait. We do have some bait sites. The hunt is a 5-day, like I said, fully guided, and it includes meals and lodging. And then we get everybody to and from the farms. The farms are marked really, really well. They're manicured. A lot of tractor trails going to and from stands, easy in, easy out. So it's a fun hunt. And that time of year is a pre-rut. So this year should be pretty good because that moon is going to be gone 5 or 6 days from being full. So we should be in the money.
You put some stock in the moon phase, do you, Bill?
Yes, sir. I've been hunting around it for years. I learned about the moon from my grandfather, believe it or not, old school hunter, and he was all about the moon, and I learned stuff from him, and it's everything they say about the moon is completely right.
And people always ask me too, well, Avery, can I bring my own ground blind? Can I bring my own tree stand down there? And the answer is no, because you and your son Neil, you have this thing, you've got it dialed in. You have stands for every wind direction on every site and every food plot. There's no reason to bring down our own stuff. Plus, we would just screw up your system. That's the way I look at it, at least.
Yeah, we refined it over the years, and now that Neil is involved in the business 100%, our system has worked out pretty good. I mean, it's not foolproof, but we have to move stuff every once in a while, but we always have equipment in the background that we can move easy. We try to. The reason why we have so many stands is during the hunting process, during the season, I don't want to have to go in and out of farms, make extra noise, extra scent. So there's a lot of tree stands. I think we set 165 last year total.
The thing that amazed me. It's funny when it's not me doing it.
105 degrees. Holy smoke.
True. Hey, have your bucks started to, I know you watch them year round. Have they started to drop yet, shed yet?
Yeah, we've got about probably 60% of our bucks are shed out, and the rest of them are all nighttime. So it's right back to early season, except for shedding the antlers. It's right back to early season right now. They're back in a feeding pattern, that midnight to 4 in the morning. But about 60% have lost their antlers. I've already found a few sheds.
When I first came,
early for that, but
it seems, you know what? I thought it was early too.
It is early. I mean, we had bucks that started losing them 4 weeks ago.
Wow.
I don't know what everybody says. They know what I don't know what drives it. I've been around this my entire life, and I have no idea what drives it. Every year is different.
The thing that really surprised me when I first came down to hunt with you, and I didn't know much about Ohio, was the only experience I had with Ohio was driving through the state on I-75, and I thought the whole thing was flat as a farmer's field. I got down there and started hunting with you guys. Your terrain, your big timber, your big woods, your hills, it's a pretty unique hunting experience, at least for a Michigan guy.
It is. I mean, in the Michigan guys, we call you guys flatlanders.
That's okay. That's okay.
It's pretty flat up there, yeah. But it's a really cool area. It's right at the foothills of the Appalachians. So we got rolling hills, a lot of steep ravines, creek bottoms, ag, giant salad bowl. Our deer are big. They're fed well. It's a pretty unique area.
I also think it's cool that yours is a family operation. It is a year-round operation. This is not something you do on the side. You don't go into the shop and then come out at night and work on this. This is your full-time gig year-round, and this is what your family does, and that's very impressive, Bill.
Yeah, when we decided to get out of running this now operation part-time, you can't give the people what they expect or what they deserve. I mean, these guys wait all year to do this for 1 week out of the year. At least you could do is do your job and do it 100%. So it's an ongoing thing, and we refine stuff every year, but we're very fortunate to be able to do it full time. It's been a great thing. Met a lot of great people.
You do have, on most of your properties, 120-inch minimum. Some of your farms are actually 140-inch minimums, but I don't think you take the average guy into those 140s, right? You take more of your hardcore guy. You're not going to have your average Michigan hunter come down there and make him hold out for a 140. At least I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of guys have a hard time coming here and watching 130s and maybe that borderline 140 walk by, and I live here and I have a hard time doing it. Because you just don't get that many opportunities. But the farms that are 140s, that's what the landowners requested and what they wanted. Yeah. It doesn't mean the farms are any better than anywhere else. That's just what the landowner wanted. And without our landowners, man, I'm working at a Subway making sandwiches, and I'm not going to be happy. I am not going to be happy.
You'll remember this. I had last year when I came down, a beautiful 2.5-year-old, roughly 110, 115-inch 8-point. I wanted him to grow a few more inches. I wanted him to be a 120, but he wasn't, so I had to pass. But you know what, Bill? It was a great experience. I had a nice buck in front of me. I saw other bucks as well. He made a scrape in front of me. I didn't shoot him because he wasn't quite there, but I still had a great hunt. Yeah, I mean,
this year that deer will be a shooter. He'll be 130 plus, and yeah, we appreciate trust me, we appreciate people that are passing up those deer and not taking shots at them. It's amazing, and you can decimate a farm pretty quick by doing that.
Well, Bill, again,
yeah, we appreciate it. Yeah, most of our farmers are pretty good about that. So.
Yeah. I got to let you go. I could talk to you all day long, but Bill Pyles of Ohio Bowhunting Outfitters, I appreciate the fact you donated a hunt to our Trinity Monitor Wild Game Dinner and Auction. That is Saturday, March 4th. Tickets go on sale Monday the 30th. Our event with Bill, where we all go down, is going to be October 16th through the 20th. If you want details on that, we still have a couple of openings. Send me an email to Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com, Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Check out the website, OhioBowhuntingOutfitters.com, to learn more about Bill, his family, and their operation. It is a first-class operation. I would not endorse it if I didn't believe that, and I will be there again in October this year myself. Larry Verbowski of Suspension Maxx after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Battle Creek on WBCK. That's 95.3 FM. You can hear us in Lansing on WILS 1320 AM. And north of the bridge, let's go to Newberry, WNBY 1450 AM. The second segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Rapid River Knives. You know I have a Rapid River knife in my pocket right now. When you see me on the street, when you see me anywhere, when I'm speaking at an event or whatever, look at my right pocket. You will see a Rapid River knife sticking out of it because I carry that thing with me all the time. It's quality, well-made, handcrafted in the UP, designed to be used, not put up on a shelf. Check them out online at rapidriverknifeworks.us. rapidriverknifeworks.us. I hope to have Chris Durson of Rapid River on the show next week to talk about knives, how to keep an edge on them, how to maintain them. I told you at the beginning of the hour that my new Garber Silverado ZR2 is looking sharp. I've got the graphics on it. Thank you, Sign Image. I got 35-inch tires under it. Thank you, Mike Hampton. And the reason I was able to put those 35s under there is because I went to see Larry Verbowski at Suspension Maxx in Bay City, suspensionmax.com with 2 X's. I think I've had Larry and his crew now do, 4, 5, 6 vehicles. And I first got turned on to Larry when I was looking at my trucks and I'm thinking, why is the front end lower than the rear? They come from the factory that way. I don't like the way it looks, and it limits the size of tire you can put under there. So I started working with Larry, and over the years he has lifted and leveled several trucks for me, and it allows me to put bigger tires, and it makes them look nice. Larry's with us on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Larry, welcome back to the show. Thanks for helping me out. How you doing?
Great. I'm doing wonderful, Mike.
I got to tell you, Larry, what you do with these trucks these days is so impressive. I mean, I look at trucks going down the road, and I feel like every truck on the road needs to go see Larry.
Yes, they do. These trucks are very low in the front. Now, it could be something to do with aerodynamics, where they're trying to squeak out every ounce of mileage out of every gallon of fuel. But that's not good for somebody that uses their truck off-road or outdoors. They need that ground clearance to get that valance. That front end of that bumper is all plastic, and everything underneath is all going to hit the ground the moment you go off-road, either exploring or rabbit hunting, anything. You've got to get that front end off the ground. And these trucks have the capabilities in them. It just has to be brought out with that Suspension Maxx kit that we offer for all trucks.
Well, and it used to be people would say, well, I can't raise that truck. It's going to screw up my warranty. And then Chevy and some others started coming out with Trail Bosses and ZR2s that are lifted from the factory. So obviously that's not the case. But even my ZR2, Larry, the front end was lower than the back.
Yep. What they've done is they've given these trucks, these Ford Raptors, these Ram Rebels, and these Chevy Trail Bosses, they've given them a lift of an equal amount, 2 inches in the front, 2 inches in the back. They still have the same ugly downward rake that they've always had, even if you buy the entry-level custom, the standard duty pickup. So we're putting, like we did on your truck, we accessorized it with that 1-inch lift in the front, which may not sound like a lot, but you would not want a house 1 inch out of level, right? So why have a truck that's inches or more out of level?
Well, there's no way I could have put those 35-inch tires underneath it without lifting the front up. And I'm thinking if my truck was a work truck and I had a plow on the front of it, man, I would really want to come and see you guys then.
Oh yeah, if you're outfitting a truck, either a half ton with a plow or a 3/4 ton with a plow, these plows are getting bigger and heavier. They're up to 700, 800, 900 pounds on the front end. That just crushes these trucks right down to the ground, where they have trouble functioning, these multi-angle V-blades. They'll actually hit the ground driving down the road because of the low clearance. And we improve that by raising these trucks up.
Larry, I've watched you work. I've talked to you about your products. I mean, you're like a genius. The way you come up with these different designs and a different way to do this. Is there a truck out there that you guys can't lift? Do you work with every manufacturer these days?
Well, yeah, we never tell anybody no. We've had people call and say, hey, will you do this? Will you do that? Well, sure, we want to look at that. If you've got a brand new truck, a brand new model, we want to see it. We want to get under it. We want to see what it's made out of. And there's a lot of times we can make modifications to an existing design, maybe changing the bolt pattern or diameters, and create a brand new product for a brand new truck with a lot of similarities of the original part.
I know that you're eager to hit the road. You're heading up snowmobiling, aren't you? I'm hoping you can find some snow.
We don't
Larry.
get much time off at Suspension Maxx.
I know you don't.
It's a constant with manufacturing of all the products and all the suppliers and the people that work for me, all my wonderful employees that do everything for me to make this a success. There's a lot of limited time, and I'm a kind of an avid snowmobiler. I always have been all my life, and it's just the time to go is now, because we're going to have spring here in another couple months, and it's going to be back to trucks again for us.
All right, Larry, I'm going to let you hit the road. I'll wish you a lot of fun on your snowmobiling adventure, but I wanted people to know about Suspension Maxx. The website is Suspension Maxx with 2 X's, suspensionmax.com. Go to that website, check out the lift kits, the leveling kits, what Larry and his crew can do for just about every truck out there. There's going to be video and pictures of my truck as well, so you can check it out, suspensionmax.com. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, Dr. Jason Garvon, he's a professor at Lake Superior State, but he's also a member of the Michigan Wildlife Council, and they're Here for Generations campaign. I stand behind these people. They are promoting hunting and fishing and trapping to the non-hunting and fishing and trapping public. We'll talk with him about that. Then coming up in hour number 2, Jake Romanack of Fishing 411, but he was on a Ontario wolf hunt. I want to talk about that and more. Lots coming up this week right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Tawas on WIOS, AM and FM, 1480 AM, 106.9 FM. You can hear us in St. Joe on WSJM 94.9 FM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in the Sioux on News Talk 1400 WKNW. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by the Linwood Beach Marina and Campground. Linwood Beach can be your year-round Saginaw Bay fishing destination and your Mid-Michigan Tracker and Angler Quest headquarters. I don't know right now if the launches are open or not, but I can tell you this. If it is possible at all, Linwood Beach will have their boat ramp open so you can get out on Saginaw Bay. If it ices up, when it ices up, you can use Linwood Beach as your jumping off spot for Saginaw Bay ice fishing. Check them out online at linwoodbeachmarina.com. That's linwoodbeachmarina.com. Then I would ask you to head on over to this website, hereformioutdoors.org. Hereformioutdoors.org is the website of the Michigan Wildlife Council, a group that I strongly support their efforts. Dr. Jason Garvon is a member of that Wildlife Council, and he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Jason, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Doing well, Mike. Thank you.
Hey, so how is the weather up in your neck of the woods? You're at Lake Superior State. Is it wintertime there, or are you suffering like the rest of Michigan is?
You know, we've got snow, but it's hovering right around that freezing mark every day, low 30s. Enough to ski and enough to snowmobile. The ice is kind of spotty, so on the big water, definitely not. But some of the smaller in the lakes we're able to fish on.
Doctor, up in your neck of the woods, everybody hunts, everybody fishes. So I find it interesting that you are a member of a council that is promoting hunting and fishing to the people of Michigan. Is it kind of strange for you to be involved in these activities when you look around your neighbors and friends in your own backyard?
I don't think so. We have a fair number of people that don't hunt or fish. I think it's just more common and more accepted in the more rural areas, and especially in the UP. But I think it's important that we have representation from all those groups on the council.
Absolutely. And what are you guys up to now? Is it a continuation of this campaign that appears to be so successful in educating primarily downstate people?
We are, and we just closed out the second phase, focused more on hunting than we have in the past. That went through November. This year, we're really in the research side, and so there's phone surveys going out. We're doing something a little different this year. We're going to meet a little bit more. We'll actually be meeting next Friday to get a preliminary look at the research. Normally we don't see that until it's kind of all summarized. So we're going to jump in and see that kind of midstream and have a little more input there.
And that research is designed to tell you what? How effective the campaign is?
Exactly. It gives us an idea of how, one, that we're spending our money well, right, and then it's effective, and two, where the general members of the public are in these areas that we're trying to reach, how well they do. So last year we found that 7 in 10 Metro Detroit residents identified hunting and fishing licenses as a source of funding for wildlife and wildlife management. So we want to see if we can keep those numbers where they are.
7 out of 10. Higher. 7 out of 10. That's very impressive because I think when you started, those numbers were much lower.
Ooh, yeah, they were.
So how do you reach people who didn't grow up in this outdoor lifestyle? What have you found to be the most effective way to get our message out to them?
I think there's a little idea when we started, or before I was part of the council, where it was kind of a soft entry point into introducing people just to the outdoors. And the idea that if you can get people outside and they can see all that's out there, even if it's not far from their metro area and their residence, and they can enjoy the outdoors, and then we can start introducing the idea of fishing. And, okay, well, this is something else I can do outside, and this is great. And then we slowly introduced hunting, which last year was the most we've ever focused on hunting in the past. So it's just kind of introducing people to the outdoors that don't have that experience, and then introducing them to more and more and more activities outdoors.
Yeah, we'd love to see everybody as a hunter or angler, but not everybody is going to follow that path. Just to get them to know that the outdoors is out there, that hunting and fishing are a big conservation outlet and a funding source. I think that alone makes your campaign a success, Doc.
I agree.
Jason, I appreciate your time. Listen, I'll look forward to checking in with you soon, or somebody from the council as well. Keep up the good work. I think you guys are doing a great job, and I appreciate you working with me.
All right. Thanks a lot, Mike.
Dr. Jason Garvon of the Michigan Wildlife Council. He's a professor at Lake Superior State, by the way, but as far as the council's concerned, he's a member of the Michigan Wildlife Council. Their website, hereformioutdoors.org, hereformioutdoors.org, and the campaign is called Here for Generations. What do I talk about all the time here on the show? This history and tradition of the outdoor lifestyle here in the great state of Michigan, hunting and fishing and shooting and trapping. Well, there is a group, the Michigan Wildlife Council, that is dedicated to continuing that way of life and continuing to make sure that people in the state of Michigan are aware how important it is, and I support their efforts and I appreciate their efforts. We'll take a break here on the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back in our second hour, Jake Romanack, you know Jake from Fishing 411 TV, but we're not going to talk about, we'll talk about fishing, but primarily I want to talk with him about his recent Canadian wolf hunting adventure. What was that like? And then we'll check in with Nick Green of MUCC. And this week's Ask Avery segment addresses the question about kids being able to carry guns in their cars. Don't get nervous. Don't get worried. No, this is in a positive sense, coming up in hour 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polar Craft Boats, the Forward Corporation, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, Brenton USA Hunting Rifles, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Indeed, this is the big guy, Mike Avery. Welcome to hour number 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show right here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan. Yes, this is first and foremost a radio show. And I say that to distinguish this program from all of the other content that's out there. And there is a lot of content out there these days, and there is a lot of great content, a lot of great outdoor-related content. So the fact that you're hearing my voice does certainly mean a lot to me. I would recommend, if you can, to listen to the show on your local radio station. There you get your local news and weather and sports. Maybe there's a sale you want to take advantage of. Plus, the radio stations get the content of the program before the podcast version of the show is uploaded. Yes, there is a podcast version of Outdoor Magazine Radio. So if your local station doesn't carry all 3 hours of the show, or if you live in some part of our state not covered by the broadcast signal, it's nice to know the podcast is out there. You can hear the podcast on my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. You can hear it on the Facebook page. You can hear it, well, honestly, anywhere you can get a podcast, whether it's Amazon Music or Audible or Google Play or iHeartRadio or SoundCloud or Spotify or TuneIn, any of those, you can hear the Outdoor Magazine radio show, the podcast version of the radio show. It's even on YouTube. I know it's audio. There is no video, but I put it up on YouTube, and people listen to it every week on YouTube. I do love podcasting, though. I think it's a very exciting, still fairly new way to reach people, and I do podcasts every month for several of my friends, including Offshore Tackle, Angler Quest Boats, Polar Craft Boats, and Primal Outdoors. Today, when we're done with the radio show, we're going to record this month's Primal Outdoors podcast with Philip Culpepper of Hunt Club TV, so you'll want to keep an ear out for that. So regardless of whether you are hearing the broadcast version or the podcast version of the show, again, thank you very, very much. I do appreciate it. When I think about the outdoor adventures that I have had a chance to enjoy over the years, both with the TV show and, now doing radio and podcasting and social media, man, there have been some fun trips, some really, really great adventures. One of them was a wolf hunt in White River, Ontario, Canada. It was one of the most intense, beautiful, fulfilling hunts I've ever been on. So when I saw online that Jake Romanack of Fishing 411, fishing411.net is their website. When I saw that Jake was recently on a wolf hunt up in Canada, I thought we've got to get Jake on the show to talk about that and probably some fishing as well. And he has agreed to give me some time out of his very busy schedule. Jake, welcome back. How are you?
I'm very good, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing great. Always a pleasure to talk to you. Anybody from the Romanack family is welcome on my show anytime. So tell me about this wolf hunt. How did it come about? Is this something you'd always wanted to do, Jake?
Yeah, so the wolf hunt's always been something I've wanted to do when I was a kid. We do a lot of hunting, but for the most part, I try to keep hunting for fun because I went and made fishing a business, Mike. So I've always kept hunting on the side of just relaxing, something to go do. And every year my dad and I go out to Saskatchewan duck hunting, and that's when I saw my first wolf. I was still in high school at the time, and ever since then I've had this desire to be able to hunt a wolf. Finally got that opportunity here in January. It's actually pre-COVID I had the opportunity. Then the border shut down in Ontario, and I wasn't able to get up there. Now that everything is very much back to normal, crossing is very easy back and forth. I figured it was the time to do it. And then on top of it, we've had such a mild winter that I was able to hunt these wolves in 20 and 30-degree temperatures, which is very uncommon. A lot of times in January in northern Ontario, you're talking about negative temperatures. So mild temperatures, easy border crossing. It seemed like everything I needed to get up there and get it done.
So where'd you end up going, Jake?
So I stayed in Wawa, but you'd said there that you in White River is where you'd hunted your wolves, Mike, and I was very close. So I stayed in the town of Wawa. Actually was hunting about a half hour north of Wawa, so right in between White River and Wawa.
Did you end up
right
going
off Highway 17?
Oh, okay. Did you end up going up there then with somebody you had fished with before, or how did you find a wolf outfitter?
Yeah, so, the way that they hunt these wolves is they're hunting them over bait. So I needed to have someone that was running a bait, having a set, and so that's what I did is I hunted with a guy named Jamie Robinson His son Brett also is running trips there, and they're doing basically a fairly low-key guiding operation there. They run the baits, they have the blinds, they have everything, but they don't necessarily have like a huge setup. So they're not really set up to run, 10, 15, 20 people a year up there. Honestly, for me, that sounded like the best situation. Is more of a kind of a self-guided type thing. They're running the baits. They have the opportunity to take you out on snowmobiles. I had all my own stuff, so I actually just brought my own snowmobile up, went in every morning on my own, and hunted in the blinds on my own. But they have it set up either way, whether you want to bring up your own machine or they can take you out there every day as well.
All right, so let me ask you, the first morning out there, you get out to the bait, the blind. You know you're in an area that there are wolves. You know there's a good chance there are wolves that are going to come in. What was that experience like, that first time out there, that first morning out there?
Well, the first morning was very exciting to me because there was wolf tracks literally everywhere. There was a fresh snow the day before I got up there, and a pack. I don't know how big of a pack of wolves were there, but it was very clear that not very long ago there was a big pack of wolves there. Now, what Jamie had told me is that that's either a really good thing or it's a really bad thing because these animals are constantly roaming. So the fact that they were just there might mean that I have to wait quite a few days before they come back through the rotation because these animals literally never stop moving. I hear all the time the guys talk about like these giant wolves. Well, in Ontario, they're big-bodied animals, no question, but they are literally skin and bones and muscle. They never stop moving looking for their next meal. So the fact that they were already there wasn't a good chance the very next day I was going to see one, and it wasn't that way. I ended up sitting 26 hours on the bait before I saw my first wolf.
Wow.
So it's definitely a mind game. And the one thing that I realized with this wolf hunting, and Jamie told me before I came up what it would be like, but he said it might be one of the most boring hunts you've ever done in your life until a wolf shows up. And in my opinion, that's kind of what it was, Mike. I didn't see a lot. I saw the beautiful scenery. I saw ravens at the bait, but I didn't see a lot of animals because there's wolves in the area. And then all of a sudden, it was a sunny, beautiful day, and those wolves step out of the timber. And in my experience, it's one of the prettiest things I've ever experienced in the outdoors.
So what was the setup? What did they use? What were they using for bait?
So what they used for bait was moose.
Yep.
And they were able to get moose through road kills and other hunters that just had their basic carcasses from hunting season in the fall. They keep it all froze up, and they put about a quarter of a moose out there at a time. The setup was very interesting to me because one of the things about wolves is how smart they are. They have incredible noses. They're just incredibly smart animal and a very hard animal to kill. And their setup is basically they have a blind up on top of this, literally it's a rock mountain. And then down in front is where the bait is. And so you're actually about maybe 120 to 140 feet above the bait. And what that does for your advantage is it puts your scent way above these wolves, and they can't smell you. So no matter which way the wind is blowing, they can't smell you. If you came down on the same level as the wolf, a lot of times when they come into the bait, they come in downwind to smell the bait. And if they come in downwind, then they're coming downwind of you and won't give you a shot opportunity. So they really have a nice system in place to be able to hunt these wolves no matter which way the wind's blowing.
How far was the bait from your blind?
About 80 yards. So it was a nice close shot. But if you can picture this, basically I'm up on this big rock mountain with the blind looking down, and the bait is down at the bottom of this ravine about 80 yards, so relatively close. But after I shot that animal, I had to walk down the backside of the mountain, get on my snowmobile, and it was about a half a mile snowmobile ride around that rock mountain to get back to the bait to be able to get to that animal.
What were you shooting? What gun?
So, Mike, I really wanted to take a Breton up there because I'm good friends with Eric Beckman, just like yourself. And it wasn't an opportunity to take that up into Canada.
Yeah, you can't take the ARs up there. Isn't that a shame?
The regulations.
Yeah.
It is, too, because I was very excited to take that gun up there and hunt that gun up there. But I was not allowed to bring the AR-style gun into Canada. So I ended up taking my Christensen 300 Win Mag, my 300 short mag, which is definitely overkill. But it was the gun that I had that was all dialed in from hunting season ready to rock and roll.
Hang tight, Jake. We got to take a break. We're talking with Jake Romanack of Fishing 411 TV. You can check out their website, fishing411.net. That's fishing411.net. But we're not talking to Jake about fishing just yet. We're talking with him about an Ontario wolf hunt. He did get an animal, so we're going to, I'm not... I'm letting the cat out of the bag there. He did get an animal, but I want to talk more with him about that. I like Jake said, I find wolves to be the most, I hate to use the word smart, but the toughest animal I have ever hunted was a wolf. I'm glad that Jake was able to have that opportunity. I want him to tell that story and more after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Houghton Lake on 98.5 WUPS. You can hear us in Sandusky on WMIC. That's 660 AM, 95.3 FM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Manistee on WTIQ, 1490 AM and 95.3 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Michigan-based Boning Archery. Boning has been a leader in the archery industry since 1946. Think of that. Since 1946, when Roland Boning invented Ferrule-Tite to glue broadheads to wooden arrow shafts. These days, Boning continues to come up with new products, new innovations, new manufacturing processes to benefit not only hunters, but target archers as well. Check them out online at boning.com, BOHNING.com. And if you are looking for a very fun wintertime project, why not build your own arrows? And the folks at Boning can help you out there. I'm making myself a note. Boning arrow building. That would be a great topic for a radio show in the next couple of weeks, so I'll check in on that. But another great topic for a radio conversation right now with Jake Romanack of Fishing 411, their website, fishing411.net. Jake, who has spent a lot of time in Ontario fishing, was recently up there for a wolf hunt. In the first segment here, he was telling us the setup of this hunt. Jake, why don't you walk me through the actual hunt here then? So you said 26 hours in a blind. So how many actual sits did you make before you had wolves come in?
So that was 3 sits, Mike. Basically, the way that it was set up is that they wanted us to come. They wanted me to come in the dark. And the reason for that is I've learned that all of these small things make a big difference in wolf hunting. One of those being the ravens, the birds that are actually on the bait. One of the things they told me that's super interesting is how smart ravens are. And what happens is if you were to drive in there during the middle of the day with your snowmobile, the ravens would see you drive in. They know that you're in the woods. And now the rest of the day, they won't come to that bait. And those wolves use the ravens as their safety. So as they're coming into the bait, if there's no birds on the bait, they know that something's up, something's not right. We put a big, giant smorgasbord out there of a bunch of moose meat, and there's no ravens out there picking on it. These wolves are smart enough to know that something's up, something is not right. So it's very important that all this whole process, basically, you find yourself in a situation where you're sitting dark to dark. I got into the turn-in with my snowmobile and trailer about 6 o'clock in the morning, ran in about 5-6 miles into the bush, got off my snowmobile, had about another 500-yard walk from my snowmobile with snowshoes to the blind, and then got into that blind. So I was basically in the blind from about 6:40 in the morning till about 6:15 in the afternoon, sitting there all day waiting for that beautiful wolf to step out.
But what an adventure, though, being up there in the cold, even though it wasn't bitter cold, but walking in on snowshoes, using the birds, waiting for wolves. Really a cool experience.
Absolutely. Mike, I know how much you love Ontario, and I'm the same way. Like, I grew up traveling to Ontario fishing. I've bear hunted in Ontario. So everything about Ontario just puts a smile on my face. It's a very rare time that I can go up to Ontario and I don't come back literally smiling ear to ear.
So it was the third sit then, or the fourth sit when the wolves came in?
It would have been the end of the third sit is what it was.
Just
so
before
I got
dark?
very lucky. Nope, it was actually during the day. It was probably about 2 or 3 o'clock. So it was relatively bright out. In fact, I was texting my dad, of all things. I was texting him and telling him, man, it would be cool if a wolf came out soon, because it was a gloomy, cold weather every day I was there. Well, the time that wolf actually came out, the sun came out. It got very, very bright. And I said, man, it would be super cool to see a wolf in this bright sunshine like this. And about a half hour later is when it happened. And one of the things they do there is they have a trail camera on the bait. And so we had a pretty good idea of when these animals were going to be coming into the bait based off of their rotation. So it seemed like about a 10 o'clock in the morning period, there were some animals, about 1 o'clock, about 3 o'clock, and then right at dark. Those were kind of those periods. And it seemed like they were on about a 3-day rotation. So like I'd said, the day that we got there and there was tracks everywhere, told me I was probably going to sit for a few days before I saw another wolf. And that's exactly what happened. 3 days later, on that rotation from our trail cameras, we were able to have these wolves come in. Now, once the wolf did come in, there could have been more with it. They're a pack animal. But after sitting 26 hours, as soon as that animal presented a shot opportunity, I wasn't messing around and I was going to take it. And so there could have been more wolves in the timber that didn't come out yet. But as soon as I was presented that opportunity, I made the shot.
Did you let him get into the bait, or did you take him before he even got there?
He was just a few steps away from the bait. He hadn't actually physically started eating on the bait yet, but he was pretty much in the bait when I had shot him.
So with that 300 Win Mag, is that what it was, right? Or 300 Win Mag?
It was.
Okay.
Yeah. So the 300 short mag is what I was using.
Short mag, okay.
Ballistically, very much the same as the 300 Win Mag. Definitely overkill on an animal of that size. I actually went on a elk hunt earlier this year, so I had a gun that was very dialed in. A gun that was dialed in, well past 400 yards. And I didn't know what I was getting myself into on the way up. I kind of talked to Jamie. He'd given me a heads up, but I wasn't sure of how far of a shot I was going to have to take. And so I took the gun that I had the absolute most comfortable, confidence in. And that particular gun, I know when I squeeze that trigger, something's going to die on the other end.
Elk hunt and a wolf hunt. That's a pretty good fall, pretty good winter.
Absolutely. Yeah, between the elk hunt, the deer hunt, and now a wolf hunt, I've been very blessed getting to do a lot of different hunting opportunities this year.
So what was it like? You work your way down the hill, you get around there, you finally walk up and you put your hands on that animal. What was that feeling like?
A couple things that came to mind, Mike, and I know that since you've harvested a wolf, you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. But when I walked up to it, the first thing is these animals stink. They smell.
Yes.
Man, that's more than any animal I've ever harvested in my life.
Yes.
And that was the first, absolutely the first thing I noticed as I'm walking up to it. The smell was absolutely horrendous. You take the smell away and you realize how beautiful of an animal that this animal is, and the size of their head, the size of their paws. It's very incredible. And the one thing, Mike, is I wanted to do a wolf hunt January, February timeframe because I wanted it to be a very pretty animal. I've seen wolves before when we're up bear hunting in Ontario, and you can harvest them in the August, September timeframe. But they're a little bit more ratty. Their hides aren't very pretty that time of year. But this time of year, these animals are absolutely gorgeous.
The process of getting it back across the border, I found surprisingly easy. Was that still the case?
I don't think so, Mike. I guess I'll definitely be able to keep you updated on that. I think after COVID, since COVID, it's been more of a process to get the animal across. The way that it basically works, I think, is still the same as it was for you. Just everything's a little bit backed up with the government right now. So I left the animal in Canada with my friends. We put it in a game bag and we put it in the freezer. Oh. And then I came back home. As soon as I came home, then I filed what's called a CITES permit. It looks like it's spelled CITES, but basically it's pronounced CITES permit. And it's a government form that I filled out and I sent in to Quebec. And then now when that comes in, they are going to look over that form. It has my license number on it. It has my sports card number on it. And it has all the information of the animal on it. Once they okay that form, then I have to go back into Canada, buy a transport permit, which is $35, and then bring the animal with the transport and the CITES permit back across. But this whole process could take up to a couple months.
See, it has changed because I was able to fill out that paperwork and bring the animal back with me when I came back.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that part has changed. Okay. Well, when
it's changed. Must have changed a little bit then. It's a very easy process. The form wasn't difficult to fill out. But it's definitely you have to take the right steps to be able to legally be in possession of a wolf in the state of Michigan.
Yeah, it's not something you want to try to. No, you got to do this the right way. When you look back on all your hunting adventures, Jake, how does this wolf hunt? Where does it rank?
As far as I would say, this was the most mentally demanding hunt I've ever been on. Sitting there in the cold. Basically, what I would do is I wore my ice fishing clothes, and then I got into a sleeping bag, and I sat in a sleeping bag to keep myself warm. But sitting there, seeing very little for hour after hour after hour, but mentally telling yourself that every hour that goes by is 1 hour closer to seeing one of the most beautiful creatures that walk in North America. So mentally, it was difficult. Physically, it was a lot of sitting, so it wasn't a very physical hunt. That elk hunt that I did earlier this year, that was the most physical hunt that I've ever been on. So I keep thinking, Mike, that, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity, but I'll be back. I'll definitely be back in the Ontario bush going after these wolves again in my lifetime.
I think I want to go back and try for a black one.
It's funny you say that, Mike. So on camera at this bait, we had black wolves coming into the bait, and I told myself, I'm like, I really, really want a black wolf, but I also wanted to harvest my first wolf ever. And so once that opportunity came out and a gray stepped out, I wasn't willing to sit another 26 hours for maybe a black to step out.
That's the same thing I thought.
Love to harvest a black.
That's the same thing I thought. There are black wolves coming in here, but I'm not going to wait for one. Jake, always a pleasure. And we didn't even talk fishing. Let's get you back on here soon in the future and talk a little wintertime fishing. Or as we get closer to spring, we'll talk about that as well.
Absolutely, Mike. It's finally getting cold. We're going to get to go ice fishing this month, so I'm looking forward to it.
I know you are. Jake Romanack of Fishing 411 TV. Check out their website, fishing411.net. That's fishing411.net. You can also find Jake on social media himself. That's where I saw the picture of his wolf. Was on Instagram, I think, and I saw him holding up this big wolf, and I thought, oh, man, that brings back memories, and it would be a great subject to talk about. Isn't it interesting, though, that people like Jake Romanack and his dad, Mark Romanack, you think of these folks as fishermen, hardcore fishermen, and they are, but oftentimes people who are hardcore fishermen are also hardcore anglers and vice versa. Because when you get this love, this addiction, this passion for the outdoors, you don't want to limit yourself just to one specific finite area. Fishing411.net is the website, fishing411.net. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, I want to check in with Nick Green of MUCC. And then we'll wrap up the hour with this week's Ask Avery segment, talking about kids 16 and 17 and legally transporting guns. When can they, when can't they? We'll look at that in this week's Ask Avery segment here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Caro on two stations, WKYO 1360 AM and WIDL 92.1 FM. You can hear us in Port Huron, WPHM 1380 AM, and north of the bridge in Marquette on WDMJ 1320 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Versa Skins, Michigan-based Versa Skins. Very cool product. Why buy several sets of hunting clothes when you can buy one good quality, warm, windproof, waterproof set and then snap on and zip on an outer layer with a different camo patterns, from blaze orange to snow camo to upland to woodland, whatever you want. Check them out. And they come in sizes for big sizes as well. I think 4, I think even 5X, maybe even more. Check them out online at versaskins.com. That's versaskins.com. While you are online, I would encourage you to check out my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com, and then head on over to MUCC.org. Now, obviously, MUCC.org is the website of the Michigan United Conservation Clubs, a very strong, very active conservation group here in Michigan that I am proud to be a member of. Nick Green is their Chief Information Officer. He helps kind of keep all these different activities and projects in some kind of a form where I can follow him, and he helps me out every couple of weeks, and he's with us once again. Nick, welcome back. How are you?
I'm doing well. Right now I'm watching the snow come down. Hopefully when folks are here this airing, it's a little better weather and they're out on the ice fishing.
Man, it's been up until now. It hasn't been much of a winter, has it?
It hasn't. We were able to get up north finally ice fishing last week, and man, we had 6-8 inches, and it was like you could pull the jet sled for miles with no effort. It's going to be a little different with some snow on the ice now.
Well, it is, but people are more than ready for it. What are you guys working on now in Lansing there at MUCC, Nick?
You know, we're just getting started into a new session. Today as we talk, the governor's state of the state is later on tonight. So when folks are hearing this, we'll kind of know what her plans are, and that's really the chance for the governor to lay out big picture ideas, everything, from healthcare to schools, but also water conservation, environment. We hope that, at least wildlife and water are mentioned in that speech. And with that, we'll kind of have the kickoff of a new session, new legislators. Our executive director, Amy Trotter, is going to be making the rounds with lots of freshman legislators, lots of folks who are expected to introduce legislation and kind of introducing MUCC, what we do, why we do it, and what we're all about here.
Speaking of Amy, I saw her name associated with a GoFundMe project for the consent decree. The gill nets, these increased gill net operations in the northern Great Lakes. And it was basically a fundraiser saying, hey, look, a lot of money has been spent legally fighting this thing. If you want to contribute to the cause, here's an option, which I thought was very cool. And I did contribute.
Well, thank you very much, Mike. To put some perspective for folks, our monthly lawyer bills have been anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000. This is a coalition of nonprofit conservation angling organizations trying to stay in the fight, trying to keep gill nets out of the 1836 treaty waters. This is a big deal. This is something that is kind of a legacy issue for us. It's something we're going to continue to work on, and we do appreciate you donating. We appreciate anyone donating. They can go to the Coalition to Protect Michigan Resources website and donate there or learn kind of more about what we're doing and why we're doing it.
10 to 20 grand a month. I'm going to go back and donate more. I mean, these are huge numbers when you think about how long you've been involved in this fight.
So, and it goes, it kind of ebbs and flows with what's happening with the case, but everything started to really kick into gear last September when filing, when the decree was supposed to have been done and there were more filings and now there's appeals. So everything is getting very intensive for our legal team, and it's going to stay that way as we continue to have court filings and they continue to climb levels in the court system.
Nick, as you look forward to spring and summertime, the MUCC, the camp, are we past the COVID phase of this? Are you going to be up and running there? Is that good to go for this summer?
We're going to do a little bit of a mixed bag this year and run just a couple weeks of overnight, which had been our traditional style. We ran 8 weeks of overnight camp. We put almost 400 kids through, had them there for 5 nights. This year, we're going to do it a little different and do 6 weeks of day camp. So we've had success with that, getting kids from the Chelsea area, the Waterloo rec areas where our camp's at. And then we'll do 2 weeks of overnight. And then, we'll try to build that if we can get our overnight filled and keep our counselors and staff. That's been the toughest part, is staffing. Once we can prove to do that for a year, I think we'll grow, and next year try to get back to, 4 to 6 overnight and then possibly grow it back to 8. So we're in good shape. We hired a new camp director, Shannon Stover. She hit the ground running. She comes from an education background, hunting, fishing family from Michigan. So we're very excited to have her.
Nick, always a pleasure. Keep up the good work. We'll check in again in a couple of weeks and have fun on your ice fishing adventures.
Thanks so much, Mike. You too.
All right. Nick Green of MUCC, the website MUCC.org, MUCC.org. By the way, if you want to sign up to become a first-time member for MUCC, use the promo code Mike, all caps, MIKE, and save 25%. And it's really, listen, even if you don't do that, it's a really good deal. It's not expensive at all. And when you think of how that money helps the cause and how your membership helps the cause, because conservation groups, like it or not, are often judged by the number of members. The clout they have in Lansing or in Washington, whatever the scenario is determined in large part by not just how active the people at the helm of those operations are, but the number of members these groups have. So I'm a member of MUCC. I would encourage you to at least check it out, MUCC.org. After the break, this week's Ask Avery segment coming up right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Sheboygan on Big Country Gold, WCBY, 1240 AM, 100.7 FM. You can hear us in Flint on Sports Extra 1330 WTRX. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Escanaba on WCHT 600 AM, 95.3 FM. The Ask Avery segment is brought to you each week by my friends from Security Credit Union. Security Credit Union loves to work with outdoorsmen and women, and they can help you with your next outdoor adventure. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. The way this segment works is this is your chance to get involved in the content of the show. You can send a question that you want me to answer directly, or you can maybe a question you want me to pass along to DNR or MUCC or something like that you might not have access to, but I do. The best way to get those questions to me is via email, Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com, Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I got to be honest, though, this week's Ask Avery segment, the question comes from me, from a situation I was directly dealing with and did not know the answer. And it was surrounding, I used my grandson Carter as an example. We got him a new shotgun at Jay's, and we wanted to go to the local trap range so he could put some rounds through that new gun. And Carter and I were discussing, okay, whether he can legally have, as a 16-year-old, whether he can legally have a gun in his car or not. A shotgun, not a handgun. We're not talking handguns here. We're talking a shotgun. So I went to the DNR and I said, here's the question. Can I get somebody on the show to talk about it? And they actually said, no, we do not want to have that type of discussion on the air with you right now, given the climate in Michigan today, which I kind of understand, but to be honest with you, I'm disappointed about. You know, I said, here is the scope of the conversation. I'm not going to take this off in some gun violence, kids and guns. I'm not going to do it. Nope. We're going to respectfully decline to have somebody on to talk about this. And they said maybe somebody at MSP, Michigan State Police. Michigan State Police said the same thing. And this is coming out of Lansing now. Nope, we don't want to talk about that right now. So I do find it discouraging and unfortunate that in today's world that people are reluctant to even have this conversation for a trap shooting and hunting situation. So what I did was I did a little research, and I went online, and I think it's about on page 80 of 100 pages of gun laws in Michigan. The Michigan Penal Code, Act 328 of 1931, 750.234F, possession of a firearm by persons less than 18 years of age. Exceptions, violations, Okay, so here we go. Except as provided in subsection 2, an individual less than 18 years of age shall not possess a firearm in public except under the direct supervision of an individual 18 years or older. Subsection 1 does not apply to an individual less than 18 years of age who possesses a firearm in accordance with Part 401, Wildlife Conservation of the Natural Resources, Environmental Protection, yada, yada, yada. This thing goes on and on and on. What it comes down to is Michigan prohibits minors who are those under 18 from possessing firearms in public unless they are under a legal adult, someone who is 18 or over is supervising them directly. Here's the part that got my attention. Minors who are at, going to, or leaving an established shooting range or practice grounds. In the case of traveling to or from shooting practice areas, the firearm must be securely fastened in a case or locked in the trunk of a motor vehicle. So, a kid 16 or 17, they can take their shotgun or their rifle if it's unloaded and encased, and preferably even locked in the truck or the trunk or the back of the truck. They can legally possess that gun while they are going to or from a shooting range. So my grandson Carter, who is 16, can legally put that gun in a case while it is unloaded, put it in the trunk of his car, and drive to the trap range to have his high school trap practice, and then drive back home. And then while he's there, of course, he's under the direct supervision of somebody who's more than 18. Also, minors with a valid hunting license are hunting on land where a parent or guardian lives or while accompanied by a parent, they can do that. So if a kid has a valid hunting license and he's driving to property where he can legally hunt, he's also allowed to have a gun with him then, a shotgun or a long gun. We're not talking handguns because kids under 21 cannot have a handgun. But why was it so hard to get this answer? Because Carter had been told by people that he just plain could not have a gun in the car. Now, he can't have it. Again, we're not talking handguns. We're talking long guns. We're talking a shotgun or we're talking a rifle here. And, of course, he cannot have it in his vehicle on school property, so that makes it even harder. But if a 16 or 17-year-old kid is driving to a range, a trap field, a skeet field, shooting range, if he's driving to it or coming back, he can have it as long as it's unloaded and encased and stored securely in a vehicle. Same thing while they're hunting if they have a valid hunting license. Should not have been that hard to get that answer. I appreciate our friends from Security Credit Union for making each week's Ask Avery segment possible. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. When we come back, we're going to talk a little fishing with Lance Valentine of Teachin' Fishing. He's got some exciting new things he's working on. And, of course, we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar in Hour 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polar Craft Boats, the Forward Corporation, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, Brenton USA Hunting Rifles, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to hour number 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show, right here on the Outdoor Magazine radio network on more than 30 radio stations across this great state of Michigan. And it is a great state, isn't it? For those of us who love the outdoors, honestly, I can't think of anywhere that I would rather live. I've had the opportunity to travel to a lot of cool places. I mean, all across Canada, up into Alaska, down into Mexico, even to Africa. And I always look forward to coming back home to Michigan. I mean, I grew up here. This is my frame of reference. This is what I know. But I love it here. Is everything perfect? Of course not. Are there things that could be better? Of course there are. But when you look at the wildlife and the outdoor recreational opportunities we have here in our state, I just don't think it can be beat, especially when it comes to fishing. man, we have some world-class fishing in this state. Some world-class salmon fishing, some world-class trout fishing, some world-class bass fishing, some world-class walleye fishing. That's really what I love. That's my thing. I love walleye fishing. And to be honest with you, I don't pretend to be really good at it. I can stumble through and bumble through on most days and get some fish and get the people on my boat, enough fish to keep them happy, and we have a good time and we laugh, and it's a great experience. But I know who to reach. I have friends who are experts. So when I get stumped, when I need some advice, when I need some help, I don't hesitate to reach out to certain people. And one of them is Lance Valentine of Teaching Fishing. He's a guy who, honestly, to use a cliche, he's forgotten more about walleye fishing than I will ever know. And that's why he's one of my favorite guests here in the Outdoor Magazine radio show. And he's graciously agreed to give us a few minutes again this time around. Lance, or should I say Lancey? There's a private joke there. Lancey, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Mikey.
There it is. I knew that was coming. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. When you grew up in a locker room like I did, 12 months a year, nobody ever called anybody by their regular name. So at least you didn't get the name like Stinky or Shorty or Skunk or something like that.
Yeah, I'm thinking Lancey's not bad after all, is it?
I've been called a lot worse.
So, Lance, listen, I know you. I know you've spent the last several weeks out on the ice. You're a huge ice fisherman, aren't you?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
I travel way up north to find good ice because I know I can't live without my ice fish.
No, I actually know that for you, ice is good for pretty much hockey, and that's it.
That's about it. That's about all it's good for.
Why not an ice fisherman, Lance? I mean, I get it. I can relate to that, but people are surprised to hear, man, Lance Valentine, why isn't he on the ice all winter long?
Yeah, a couple of reasons. We grew up a hockey family, so basically our winters were, we spent, 10, 12, 15 hours a day at the rink, and on Saturdays and Sundays. I mean, our life was all about hockey growing until I graduated from college. And honestly, I've never, ever had a good ice fishing experience. I've been a couple times with some people. I've been on the bay a couple times walleye fishing. I've been to some local lakes, bluegill and crappie fishing. And I just never, ever had a really good experience ice fishing. And to me, you look at all the work you have to do. You either got to walk a long way, pulling a bunch of stuff, or you got to have some way to get on the ice. And you got to set this up and set that up. And by the time you do it, you got an hour and a half into prep. And then you sit there for however many hours and freeze your butt off and don't catch anything. And then you got to walk all the way back and put all that stuff away. And everything's wet and cold, and I'm like, yeah, no, that's okay. And, then when I became, started, Walleye 101 and teaching fishing all those years ago, it's seminar time, right? January, February, March, we're on the road doing shows, we're doing seminars, we're just on the road traveling, so it just never became anything that, number one, I never really had a good experience, and number two, now I just don't have the time to put into it to be good at it. And I'm the kind of guy that if I can't be really good at something, I don't do it. I do one or two things, and I do them, to the nth degree, and I try to get really, really good at them. I'm not a guy who, does everything. So it's just something that just never has kind of fit into what I do.
So in your mind, Lance Valentine, what are those things that you're really, really good at?
I think educating fishermen is something that I'm pretty good at. I think communicating with fishermen or outdoorsmen is something else that I'm really, really good at. And those are the two things that I'm definitely concentrating on right now is communicating the things that I do know about fishing and I know will help people catch more fish. Is working really, really hard to be the best at communicating those to other people so they can enjoy the outdoors better.
Well, I also think you're really, really good at trolling for open water walleye, and I think you're really, really good at jigging for big river walleye.
Yeah, well, if you do it enough, you're going to get lucky sooner or later. So that's kind of how that works out.
Lance, I know you've got some exciting things from a business perspective going on. Are you tweaking some things? You're not changing the scope of what you do, are you?
Definitely not changing the scope of what we do. We are definitely expanding the scope of what we do and kind of tweaking it a little bit. We launched the brand new Teach and Fishing website about a week ago. Added a lot more content. There's a lot more options for folks to see all of our content, regardless of what it is. We've added some more, we call it high intensity workshops, 2, 3, 4 hour workshops that are, they are not free. They're paid for, but there's some really, really great content there that we're working on. The new website is a whole lot easier to navigate. Everything you need to find is in one spot on the homepage. Just pick one of the 16 boxes, click on it, and it'll take you to the stuff you need. We've made it a lot easier to navigate. And we're just kind of expanding what we do. We've kind of expanded the amount of topics we cover. We've expanded how we cover it. We've expanded the opportunities to see it between written material, seminar material, on the water material, and we've got some huge, huge plans for content both on and off the water as gets to the point where we can actually get on the water this year. So we're pretty excited about the content part of what we're doing here at Teaching Fishing, especially with the new website.
So, and honestly, I didn't realize until you let me know before I hit the air here that there was a new website, so I have not had the chance to check it out. If I go there and click on some of these boxes, I mean, are these recorded seminars or are they live online streaming events, or what are they, Lance?
So it's a little bit of both, right? We have recorded seminars. We have on-demand downloadable courses that we have. We have the ability to see some live stuff. Tonight we're going live. We have our Teaching Fishing Anglers Club that is a yearly membership. But in January we did our content, made it available to the public. And tonight is Wednesday as I'm talking to you. So right after your Wednesday night, we go on at 8:00 on our website, and we do a live Q&A covering the topic that we covered this month, and that's available to the entire public. So we've kind of offered, we used to just offer a few things, and now we've really, really expanded how people can see what we do. We've got a lot more free content than we used to have. We have a lot more intense paid content. We're covering some topics and some subjects in ways we've never covered them before. So we're really excited about what we're doing here. Now it's a lot of work. Anybody thinks that this is easy, you know this, right? Building a new website. I mean, we're almost 18 months into the website rebuild. I think right now we're at 190 some pages, and there's still another 100 to be built. It's a huge, huge process to do. But with what we want to accomplish, our goal at Teaching Fishing, Mike, pretty simple, is to become the one place or the first place that people go when they need fishing information in general, specifically walleye information, and specifically walleye information on the Great Lakes. We want to be the first place that they go, find good content, and don't need to go somewhere else and kind of weed through some of the crap that's actually out there.
Well, and I appreciate that. That's an honorable goal, and it's a goal that I'm sure that you will be able to reach. Yeah, that whole website thing, I mean, my website is desperately in need of being revamped, but it's such a daunting job that I just kind of keep dragging my feet. It's a big deal.
It's definitely a longer process than I ever thought it would be. Luckily I have good people behind the scenes, putting it together, but just from my point, just the writing, right? And they send you a page and go, okay, I need, 2 blurbs here, an introduction to this, and explain what this is. And I mean, just the writing for it is just overwhelming how much content you have to create just to get people to get to the content. Well,
and I do also appreciate you holding off your Wednesday night live streaming events until 8:00. So you didn't directly compete with my Wednesday night lives at 7. I'm like, oh man, I'm not going head to head live on Wednesday nights with Lance Valentine. That's not something I want to do.
I would never, ever, ever, ever do that to you. And actually, as I'm getting ready for my 8:00 on Wednesday, we go to 9:00 in the summertime as guys are out fishing longer than that. But in the wintertime, we're at 8. Actually, as I'm preparing and making my notes and going over my final rundown, I'm actually listening for sure, and sometimes actually getting a chance to peek up at the TV and actually watch your Wednesday Night Live. So I am there, even though I don't participate because I'm working on a rundown on my event that's coming up. But I definitely still participate and still love watching on Wednesday morning, Wednesday nights.
Well, I see you sneaking in there once in a while, but it's good to know you're there, and I will keep that in mind. We're talking with Lance Valentine of Teaching Fishing, teachingfishing.com. And it's not teaching fishing, it's teachingfishing.com. You know Lance, he's been a fixture in the especially the walleye world here in Michigan for so many years. We got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show, but when we come back, we'll talk more with Lance about what's going on in his world from a business perspective, from a seminar perspective, perspective and a fishing perspective as well. I mean, we can't have Lance on the show and not talk some fishing. Late winter fishing, early spring fishing, that and more coming up after the break with Lance Valentine of Teachin' Fishing, teachinfishing.com, right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Houghton Lake on the Twister 92.1 WTWS. You can hear us in Holland on WHTC 1450 AM 99.7 FM. And you can hear us in Ludington on News 97, 98, 98.7 WLDN. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Michigan-based Whack-'em and Plack-'em, a very cool and unique way to show off your trophies. Use them with shoulder mounts, European mounts, even fish. For details, check out the website, nontypicalinnovations.com. That's nontypicalinnovations.com. And I'm talking with Jason from Nontypical, and I think he just might be at our big Trinity Monitor Wild Game Dinner Saturday, March 4th. He might be there and display some of his wares. In the meantime, go to the website, nontypicalinnovations.com. Also, be sure to head over to this new website, teachinfishing.com. Teachinfishing.com, the website of Lance Valentine and his Teachin' Fishing franchise. Lance, I know how much you love to troll big water walleye. So do I. I feel like, and this is pun intended, we're really missing the boat by not taking advantage of the wintertime walleye trolling this year.
Yeah, a lot of guys have been out and are doing well. I kind of see them obviously on Facebook, and I see all the reports, and good for them. I mean, it's one of those things that if you can get out, it's definitely a great time of year to be out. We're seeing good reports from Detroit River, Saginaw Bay, Saginaw River, Lake Erie, Lake St. Clair. Guys are fishing everywhere. So, I'm kind of in the mode. My schedule is I put the boat away right before Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving to Christmas is family time on purpose because I don't get a lot of that during the regular year. And then we go right into show season. So I'm pretty okay. From Thanksgiving until the first part of April, I'm pretty okay that. I'm probably not going to get to fish. There's lots of things to do, and I've got enough little pieces of what we do here at Teachin' Fishing to definitely keep me busy enough to not get out. But man, if I would have known it was going to be this nice, this long, I probably would have found a day to sneak out with a buddy or two.
Yeah, the size of the fish they're getting right now is just very impressive. A far cry from what we catch midsummer in the same water, those 15 to 18-inch fish.
Yeah, it's a whole different deal, right? Anytime you've got a bay, and obviously Saginaw Bay is a giant bay, but anytime in the fall you've got a bay, you've got something that comes off of the main lake, especially if you've got influx of warmer water coming from a river, and you've got some current flow. Those places attract bait fish no matter where you're fishing, and obviously this time of year, these fish are worried about getting enough food to get through the winter and get through the rigors of spawning. So. Food is always their number one priority, but more so, I think, in the fall than any other time. And these bays and these sheltered bays are usually out of most of the wind and influx of current and influx of warmer water and runoff from these rivers. Attracts bait fish. The walleyes come, and it's a migration that they make every fall. And then as they leave the inner bay as summer heats up, they're chasing bigger bait fish. They're chasing a much more efficient meal to eat, smelt. Shad, some of the open water bait fish that head out to deeper water, and a lot of those big fish disappear, and they live an open water lifestyle way out in open water, almost a salmon style lifestyle all summer, chasing those bigger, high protein, oily bait fish, and then they come back in the fall to feed up. And it's just a cycle that's been going on for a gazillion years, and that's just what they do.
You talked about the Detroit River, St. Clair River. This spring, and this, it's going to be interesting because the Saginaw River is not going to close for the spawning closure as it has previously. I'm curious how much attention that river is going to get, if it'll take some of the guys that have been driving way down to the Detroit River, if the fishing is going to be good enough to keep people closer to the Saginaw River this spring.
Well, I know one guy who's hoping it is. I know that.
Yeah.
I'm hoping it keeps a lot of guys up here. But I think it'll be a different type of fishery, especially in the area that they're doing it. And when we talk about rivers, we kind of break rivers down into 4 different sections. And one of the things we talk about, a section of river that we discuss a lot, is what we call a passing area, basically a highway where fish are moving back and forth. They're not staying. There definitely isn't a lot of the right bottom composition for spawning. It's more open water, open channel, deeper stretches where fish just kind of use as a highway. And the part of the river that's open is mostly that. It's a highway area that fish use to migrate from the lake, up into the smaller tributaries and the upper part of the river, where they actually do, 85% of their spawning in the river. So, there will be some big fish caught. Obviously, there won't be as many big fish. The numbers of big fish that would be caught if the opening was all of the river and all the Shiawassee and all the Tittabawassee. But I think it's going to be an average fish fishery, right? There'll be a lot of 2 to 4 pound fish caught in that area because those fish are moving. Guys will get lucky, and I don't want to call it lucky. The guys will have their timing right, and they'll be on the right place on that highway at the right time when a pot of big fish come through, and they'll catch some nice fish. But I see it being an average fish fishery. Those 1.5 to 4 pound fish, I see a lot of those being caught. And look, that's a riot, especially in that river where there's not a lot of current. There's a lot of casting that goes on. A little bit more in Detroit River where it's mostly vertical jigging because of the current. And it's just fun to catch fish that way. So I think it'll be a pretty crowded, pretty well used. And I think honestly, my opinion is I think it's time that we do this, especially with the amount of, walleyes. We're at historically high walleye population levels. I think it's time to do this and check it on a yearly basis, check the population reports, open it or close it based on what the populations say. And I think it's great. I think it's great for the people up in that part of the world that want to go. Look at Detroit River, you need a bigger boat, right? That's a big river with huge commercial traffic on it. Saginaw River, you can get by in a 14, 15, 16, small 17-foot boat and catch a lot of fish. And I think these opportunities for guys to catch fish close to home, to not to travel a long way, and for folks in a little bit smaller boats, I think it's great for the fishery, and actually great for the fishermen here in that part of the world.
I'll take those 2 to 4 pound fish you talk about all day long, because here in Michigan, Lance, we're spoiled. It takes a double-digit walleye to get people even excited about big fish these days. That's not true everywhere in the country, for sure.
No, and we've got lots of places you can do that, right? Saginaw Bay, Saginaw River, Lake Erie, Lake St. Clair River, the west side of the state. We've got lots of places where you can go and you can legitimately, expect to catch a 10-pound fish. And, lots of other places in the country, there's maybe 1 or 2 spots at very specific times of the year that you got a chance to tie into a 30-inch fish or a 10-pound fish. We have lots of options here, basically all throughout the year if you follow the right fish as they move. And we're spoiled. I say all the time. I said it last night. I did a summer at the West Michigan Walleye Club, and we got talking. And I say it all the time. We don't have fishing here in Michigan. We have varying degrees of catching. And I think if a lot of people here in Michigan, especially us that fish the Great Lakes on a pretty regular basis, if we actually had to fish the way a lot of guys in Minnesota, Wisconsin, the Dakotas, Iowa, Kansas, the way that they have to fish, we'd have a lot more golfers here in Michigan, because what we do here does not happen all around the country.
What about bays de Noc? I used to hear about those being big fish fisheries. I don't hear so much anymore. Do you get a chance to get up there much?
So I don't want to overstep my bounds here, but there was an issue with some netting up there about a little over a decade and a half ago. Basically decimated the walleye population. It is coming back. We had a Michigan Walleye Tour tournament there a couple of years ago, had the championship, and the fishing was very good for some good-sized fish. And that fishery has changed because as the water's gotten cleaner. We've got zebra mussels. Obviously they've taken a big hold. The water's a little bit cleaner. these fish are now not really coming into the bays as far as they used to. They're spending more time out in open water, on open water structure. They're moved around by the wind. Guys are doing a lot of casting, structure casting, finding fish on sonar and then casting for them. So there's a lot more of that, which kind of has taken the amount of fish that go into bait and knock, kind of dropped that. So the fishing's not quite as good. It's still a world-class fishery. It's just not the numbers that it used to be.
When you say finding fish on sonar, are you talking side scan or traditional?
I'm talking mostly side scan and then catching them with, the new active target where you can actually see, these fish actually move, in 3D, actually, move as you're fishing for them. So guys will scan a piece of structure with, at 15, 20 miles an hour to the side scan, mark a few pods on their GPS, come back and then use that forward-looking sonar to actually see them and see where they are, and then actually cast to them, watch them react to their bait, catch them, and then when that 2 or 3 fish in that pod disappear, they get back on their boat, go to the next waypoint, or go searching again and look for another pot of 3 or 4 fish. So fishing has really changed because of water color, water clarity. Bait fish have changed. All that has kind of affected how we fish, and some of the places we used to catch fish aren't as good. Doesn't mean that the body of water isn't as good. It just means that fish are different places now than they used to be, reacting different to different sets of outside stimulus.
You talk about fisheries changing, and you and I have had this conversation before. I tend to be guilty of fishing memories. If I fished in an area in the past and I caught fish this way in the past, that's the way I will fish again. But I often don't see the big picture, and that's what I think what a lot of anglers like me are missing, Lance, is that ability to look back either in their records or in their memory and say, okay, something has changed here. How do I capitalize on that change? And I think that's one of the things that sets the really good anglers apart from the rest of us.
Yeah, without question. And obviously you want to keep good records. You want to have that data, but you can't use it as 100%. This is what I'm going to do. So it's taking data from previous years. It's adapting what has happened, what things have changed, how things are different now, and then taking that data and kind of figure out how those fish are. Great example. So we've got on our website, we've got what we call Detroit River Feature Course. It's 180 minutes of on-demand video that guys can watch. And we talk nothing about fishing on the Detroit River. We talk about the migration routes in the river, how fish come into the river from Lake Erie and Lake St. Clair, how they move at different times of the year, why they use different types of structures to move up and down the river, how fish that come in on the American side only end up in certain places, and how fish on the Canadian side actually migrate differently. And one of the things we talk about is how the migration into the American side, specifically Trenton Channel, has changed over the years. It used to be the first place to go, and you would go there and you catch all kinds of 9, 10, 11-pound fish, and it was the best place to go. It's not that way anymore because 2 reasons. Number one, we're not pumping water out of that plant anymore. So imagine you're in Lake Erie, and this is the other thing that's changed. We don't have 3 feet of ice and 2 feet of snow cover shutting down the food chain out there on Lake Erie where the fish winter. So they used to shut down the food chain because we had the ice and the snow. The water's really cold. Now here comes all this warm water from this electrical plant pumping in from Detroit. These fish, that's where they go. Well, we're no
Lance,
longer pumping warm water.
Hang tight. Got to take a break.
Okay.
I'm going to offer you the coveted third because I know he's going to take it. The coveted third segment coming up with Lance Valentine of Teachin' Fishing, teachinfishing.com. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Muskegon on WKBZ. That's 1090 AM. And on the other side of the state, in Saginaw, on WSGW AM and FM, 790 AM, 100.5 FM. I'm in the studios of WSGW right now. What I do is I borrow one little part of the building, one little corner, and I steal it from Pat Johnston. I'm in his studio right now. But he graciously allows me to use it for a couple of hours every week. Pat, I do certainly appreciate it. Appreciate your help. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Reader Landscaping. Let Reader create an outdoor getaway in your backyard because it's your nature and our nurture. And you might look out the window right now and go, there's really not enough snow for Reader to come over and plow. Well, that's probably the case. But if there is, Reader can help you out. More likely, though, you're looking down the road. You're looking to springtime. and you're looking at those springtime projects, well, now is the time to get on the calendar, whether it's a small project or a big, complete backyard renovation. The folks at Reeder can take care of it. But don't wait until springtime to get the process rolling. Get in touch with the folks at Reeder right now and get on their list. The website, reederlandscaping.com. That's reederlandscaping.com. Right now, though, we're wrapping up our conversation with Lance Valentine of Teachin' Fishin'. Make sure you check out his newly redesigned website, Teachin' Fishin'. Not teaching fishing, no, teachinfishin.com. And Lance, listen, I want to take the rest of our conversation a little bit toward the river fishery, because it won't be long before folks are back out on the river. In fact, I'm wondering, with a winter like this, are there people jigging the Detroit River right now?
Oh, yeah, absolutely there are. Yep, there are absolutely people jigging the Detroit River right now. And, and it's funny, we heard it, last year and the year before, when we didn't have a lot of ice and snow cover, and guys are like, these fish are moving into the Detroit River early. I'm like, no, they're always there, right? It's the same thing happens in Detroit that happens in Saginaw. These fish make a migration to that river and in and out of that river all fall. And, traditionally we can't get to them because there's enough ice flows down the river that you're not safe putting a boat in. Well, we're able to get to them now, and you can catch them. And so these fish aren't coming any earlier than they do. They come that time of year all the time. We just now have the ability to get out there and actually get at them. So I think that's one of the big things I think people have a misconception. And I think one of the things that I try to do different is when I see something happen, I try to backtrack and try to figure out why. Why are the fish here? Why is this happening? Why is this going on? Because too many people see something like that happen and they instantly think, well, the spawn's going to be early this year because the fish are coming early. Like, no, these fish are here every year. It's just a natural progression of how walleyes move when they have a river environment attached to a big giant lake. That's just what they do. It's no different. We're just able to actually get to them and catch them. So I think sometimes anglers have to step back and try to figure out the why of what happens, so now they can understand more of actually what to do, especially if the fish don't show up where they think they should be. Now they know why and what's happening. They can understand how these fish are moving and where they actually are. And that's all stuff we cover in our Detroit River feature course. And that's what I wanted to do with that, is I wanted to make sure that people learn some of the things that we know. It's myself, Mark Panazak, and Ali Shakur. Ali is a fishery scientist.
You got three heavyweights right there, Lance. Nice job.
It's a really cool 3 hours of seminar time, and we wanted to cover. We talk about 10 minutes about the actual fishing part of it. There's so much to understand of why fish come in the American side, why fish come in the Canadian side, why the timing is different, why those fish are sometimes bigger or smaller on either side. There's so much to understand about Detroit River, and that's what we covered in that Detroit River class. And I would highly encourage guys that want to know about Detroit River, a little commercial, go to the website, and on the top row of our boxes there, the second one over, Detroit River in depth, click on that. Get that seminar. It's on demand. You can watch as many times as you want, and it's just an amazing look at what actually is happening and why fish do what they do when they do it.
Before I let you go, I got to talk about jig size. The old traditional, Gary Roach. First time I ever fished with Gary Roach, he was tossing a 16th ounce jig, and I'm like, oh my Lord. And then I hear you talk about, no, the bigger is better, and you've actually come up with a new design or something, haven't you, Lance?
Yeah. So I believe that bigger is better most times with most people, especially vertical jigging. And we came out with a thump jig, 15 years ago, and last year we actually got with the guys over 2K jigs over on the west side of the state, and we actually built a better jig. We took all the lead off of the collar, and put a wire holder on there, so now your plastics don't split. That was a big deal with a lead collar. Sometimes your plastics will split. We took that weight. Obviously, you got to put that weight somewhere. We put that weight on the bottom. It did three things. Made the nose pointier, so now it sits into the current and doesn't spin. You put more weight on what we call the cheeks, the bottom and the back of the jig, so the water goes over the nose, goes on top of those cheeks, and actually pushes the jig down so it fishes heavier and stays vertical. And a Bob Ross happy accident by doing that, and just a credit to the guys over at 2K Jigs, is now when they did that and they moved the weight around, now when that jig hits the bottom, it actually sits straight up. It does not roll over. The hook is actually at about 15 degrees up, and the bottom of the jig sits flat on the river bottom, so there's no way it's going to get snagged. You're not going to roll the point of your hook. It actually sits straight up. When you're fishing in a vertical jig design, that doesn't happen. Nobody else makes a jig with a line tie on top, a vertical jig that actually stands up like that when it hits the bottom. So we sold out at Novi. I ordered enough for the Novi show to get me through Novi and Outdoorama. We sold out at Novi. They are currently busting their butt to get jigs made for Outdoorama, the Grand Rapids show, and then our new web store launch coming in March. So we're pretty excited about the new jig. Sometimes you just take little tweaks on something that does work, and it becomes a much better product, becomes a huge hit.
Lance Valentine, you're the man when it comes to walleye fishing. Lance Valentine of Teachin' Fishin', teachinfishin.com. We'll take a break and wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar right here on Outdoor Magazine. Thank you so much for joining us this week here on the Outdoor Magazine radio show. I do certainly appreciate it. A lot of things you could be watching, a lot of things you could be doing, but the fact that you hear my voice means so very, very much to me. If you've been with us before, you know how I like to wrap up each week's show, and that's with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. This week is no exception. David, welcome back. How are you?
I'm doing pretty darn good. I'm getting used to this not working a whole lot lately.
Is it starting to set in now?
It is, little by little, but it's a heck of a lot of work to empty out a building that you've been in for 35 years.
Oh, I can't even imagine.
Try to sell stuff, give it away, throw it away, downsize.
Well, and we're not going to let you relax too long because our big Trinity Monitor Wild Game Dinner is coming up Saturday, March 4th. By the way, Dave, tickets go on sale for that Monday the 30th, this Monday.
Oh, good. So that'll give you just about a month and a couple of days.
And we won't need that long. It'll sell out, I'll bet you, in a couple of weeks.
I bet you too.
Yep.
So it's such a wonderful event, and you've moved it to a different venue this year, so it's even going to be a little larger and a little more spread out, from what I understand.
Yep, the Great Hall in Midland. We're looking forward to it. Details as we get closer. But Dave, Pat gave me a heads up here. You talked about a recipe that you want to do for us this week, and I'm surprised you can use walleye for this, because I would think the walleye would be so delicate and flaky that it would break up and not allow you to use that. Tell me more.
I got a technique, and you're going to hear it right now. So I'm thinking spring, on a day like today where the snow is coming down fast and furious. So you need about 8 ounces of boneless, skinless per person, a couple of chili peppers, or if you don't like any spice at all, omit these, or more or less to your taste. Take a small zucchini and a small summer squash, and you're going to cut long ways and then julienne it. Make it in like French fry size pieces. And the same thing, you're going to do that with a red, a green, and a yellow pepper, nice big ones. You're going to do the same thing. That's called julienne when you slice it like that, and put that on the side. Or, some places actually sell a vegetable frozen mixture cut like that. And if you want to save time and you don't mind using it, by all means use it. You need a bunch of cilantro, a quarter stick of butter, 3 to 5 cloves of garlic, depending on your needs, and the juice from either a lemon or a lime. So what you're going to do is you're going to take and flour, egg, and brown off the fish and put that on the side. You only want to just brown it. You're not cooking it at this point. So then take your sliced vegetables with a little bit of oil, olive oil or butter. I would say the butter would probably be good, because that's the flavor you're looking for. Stir saute the garlic up a little bit. Don't do it too fast. You want to go nice and slow. And just when it's nice and golden brown, then you're going to add the vegetables and stir saute these all around for just a few minutes, just to kind of get them cooking a little bit, warm them up real nice. And then once you get them really ripping good, put in the cilantro, and then you remove that from the heat at this point in time. So you're going to put some of this mixture down. Say if you got 4 portions, you want to divide it up. So you're going to use an 8. So you're going to put an 8th of that down, lay the fish on top. Then you're going to add more of the vegetables on top. So it's going to still be a stir fry, but the walleye stays intact until you take a spatula and you lift it off of that baking sheet. So you're only going to bake this uncovered after you squeeze a little bit of lime, put a couple pats of butter, and if you like chili peppers, by all means use that in it. If not, leave it fresh because it's not going to have it'll have a lot of flavor, I'll tell you that, because all the peppers and everything. Bake it uncovered, 350 degrees it's not going to take anywhere from 10 to 12 minutes. When the fish is done and flaky, you can kind of move them vegetables around a little bit and see if that fish is flaky. Take 2 forks and kind of see if you can move it around. Then take your spatula and adjust it on each of the serving plates that you're going to be using. It is just, we did this for the show. I don't know how many. I've been digging up all of these old recipes, trying to keep everything fresh here. So
it sounds wonderful. Wild Game Chef Extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. You cannot see him at Oscar and Joey's anymore because the restaurant is closed down and Dave has pretty much retired. But you can see him Saturday, March 4th at the Trinity Monitor Wild Game Dinner and Auction. Dave is our chef that evening. Tickets go on sale Monday the 30th. Details on my Facebook page. Dave, we appreciate you helping us out with that, and you're a big draw. A lot of people are looking forward to it.
I am too. I can't tell you how much I like doing you guys' dinner. It's just, to me, it's pretty darn outrageous.
I appreciate you saying that, David. We'll let you go. Stay out of the snow. We'll talk next week.
Yeah, right. Lots to do.
All right. Lots to do, lots of places to go, and a lot of stuff to get out of that building before they come in and take it down. Wild Game Chef Extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar, a big part of the Outdoor Magazine show, as are you. Because if you weren't listening, there'd be no reason to do this show. And I'll tell you what, I'm not ready to retire yet. I mean, God has other plans than what I do. I understand that, but I have no intention of retiring anytime soon. I like what I'm doing. I love what I'm doing. I feel like I'm here for a reason, and that's a pretty darn good feeling. And I appreciate you making that happen. My name is Mike Avery. The website is MikeAveryOutdoors.com. That's MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address, Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Don't hesitate to reach out. Look forward to hearing from you, and I look forward to talking with you next week here on the Outdoor Magazine Show. Don't forget Wednesday night lives on my social media outlets every Wednesday night at 7, and my Behind the Mics Wednesday mornings at 8:45.